Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're taking a close look at the experiences of women entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, going beyond just the typical, success stories
Mm-hmm.
to really get at what makes their challenges and their wins unique.
Yeah.
And to help us out, we've got a script that follows one woman's journey.
Okay.
It's full of scenes and examples we can pull from.
Interesting.
Plus, we got some recent stats on women in business to add to the mix.
Should be a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah. And by the end, you might be surprised by what we find.
I'm sure.
No matter where you are in your own business journey, I'm betting you'll pick up some great tips along the way.
Okay. Well, what's got you excited about this particular script? What makes it stand out?
I think it's how, right off the bat,
Uh-huh.
it throws us into the deep end with this idea of a tightrope
Oh, okay. A tightrope.
for women in business.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
And, to me, it's the perfect way to describe that double standard a lot of women face,
Yeah, I see that.
where on one side, you've got all these expectations about their roles,
Right.
like traditional roles in society.
Mm.
And then on the other side,
Right.
you've got this drive to break free and build something of your own.
Right. So how does that tension play out in the script? Are there specific scenes that stand out?
Totally. Like early on,
Mm-hmm.
there's this meeting
Okay.
our entrepreneur is in
Right.
with all these like older guys,
Oh, I can picture this.
and they basically question whether she can handle a big project
You're kidding.
just because she's a woman.
It's infuriating, but I've got to say,
Yeah.
that kind of scene,
Oh, so relatable.
oh, like it's sadly realistic.
So true. But I was really impressed by her response.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like she doesn't get all defensive
Right,
and
right.
try to overcompensate or anything.
Okay, good.
She just calmly says, "Hey, I got this."
Mm-hmm.
Steers the conversation back to strategy,
Right.
sets a boundary without making a big deal of it.
It's subtle, but powerful.
Totally.
It makes you wonder, though, for someone listening
Oh,
who's
yeah?
been in a spot like that, facing that kind of subtle dismissal,
Hmm.
how important is it to have that rock solid self-belief already in place?
I think it's huge
I'd agree.
because those moments of doubt are going to creep in
Yeah.
from outside sources and from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got that solid foundation of confidence,
Mm-hmm.
you can weather the storm.
I like that. So it sounds like the script is really highlighting the importance of inner strength and also the support system.
Exactly. Like she's got this network of
Yeah.
people around her
Yeah.
who really get her vision
Right.
and they champion her.
Which is something we all need, right? That circle of support.
Yeah, totally.
Especially when you're tackling something as challenging as building a business.
Oh, for sure.
So we've talked about confidence, support system.
Yeah.
Let's talk about money.
The funding.
Yeah, like the lifeblood of any business.
So the script mentions this stat. It wasn't surprising to me, honestly.
Right.
But it's still kind of disheartening.
Mm.
Women-led businesses get way less funding
Oh, gosh, I can only imagine.
than businesses led by men.
I feel like we're always talking about this funding gap, but it's still shocking when you see the numbers.
It is.
And it's not just about the numbers, right? It's the whole experience of seeking funding.
Yeah.
I think this script shines a light on something we call unconscious biases, which, like it or not, plays a huge role in how investors evaluate pitches.
For sure.
There's this scene that really brings this home.
Tell me about it.
Our entrepreneur's presenting her business plan.
Right.
Solid data, great team, the whole package,
Huh.
and the investors just aren't convinced.
Ugh, it's frustrating, right?
It is.
Like they're nitpicking her experience, asking questions.
Yeah, the kinds of questions.
They wouldn't dream of asking a man.
No, exactly. Classic unconscious bias.
And the takeaway for anyone listening,
I'd say meticulous preparation is key.
yeah, that's huge.
You've got to anticipate those biases,
Uh-huh.
come armed with data that's bulletproof,
Mm-hmm.
be ready to address those unspoken doubts head on.
And be persistent, right?
Oh, absolutely. Don't let those biases dim your shine.
Right. And speaking of shine, the script also touches on this
Mm-hmm.
additional burden that women often face
Okay.
in building credibility,
Yeah.
especially in male-dominated fields.
Absolutely. It's like they have to work twice as hard just to be taken seriously.
It's so true. And the script shows how our entrepreneur tackles this
Oh.
by confidently presenting her product's success at a conference.
Oh, I see.
It's not just data. It's owning the stage.
Right. She's positioning herself as a thought leader.
Exactly. So for anyone listening who's like, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Especially early in their career
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have that track record yet, what would you recommend?
I'd say it's all about being proactive.
Okay.
Like, don't wait for permission to be seen as an expert.
Right.
Constantly learn, seek out networking, and really hone your public speaking skills.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The more you do those things, the more those stereotypes start to crumble.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something
Sure.
I think everyone struggles with,
Mm-hmm.
but especially women who are trying to run their own businesses.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
The work-life balance tightrope.
Yep. It feels like there's never enough time to do it all.
Oh, it's a constant juggling act. And honestly,
Yeah.
the pressure to be superwoman can be incredibly draining.
So true. And I love how the script doesn't sugarcoat it,
Oh, good.
but it also offers some realistic advice.
Okay, I'm curious.
Through this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
the entrepreneur has with a friend.
Okay.
And it boils down to three things. Really prioritizing,
Right.
delegating effectively,
Mm-hmm.
and really making time for what truly matters.
Okay, but in the whirlwind of actually running a business, how do you actually put those principles into practice?
Well, the first step, I think,
Yeah.
is to pinpoint your non-negotiables.
Your non-negotiables, huh?
Yeah, like those core values and activities
Mm.
that bring you joy and keep you going.
That sounds good.
And then you
yeah.
got to take a hard look at that to-do list.
Mm-hmm. That's the tough part.
What can you delegate? What can you streamline?
Right, and I guess the key is it's not about doing everything perfectly.
No, totally.
It's about focusing your energy on what really moves the needle.
Yeah, in your business
Mm-hmm.
and in your personal life.
Exactly. Give yourself permission to not be perfect.
That's so important.
It is. And you know what? This segues nicely into another big theme.
Yeah.
The power of networks.
Oh, tell me more about that.
In the script, our entrepreneur goes to this women's networking event
Okay.
and ends up meeting a potential collaborator,
Nice.
someone who really gets her struggles
That's so valuable.
and can offer that support and shared experience.
Yeah, it's a good reminder
Yeah.
that sometimes the most valuable connections
Mm-hmm.
just kind of happen organically.
I agree. But for anyone listening who's feeling a bit isolated,
Right.
what would you suggest in terms of, actively seeking out that kind of support?
I'd say first, don't be afraid to look online.
Online communities.
There are so many incredible communities
Right.
specifically for women entrepreneurs.
Yeah, where you can connect with others who get it.
Yeah. And don't discount in-person stuff
Mm-hmm.
like meetups, workshops,
Right.
local events.
Okay.
You might be surprised by the connections you make.
That makes sense. And I think it's important to remember
Yeah,
mentorship is a two-way street.
that's a good point.
As you gain experience,
Mm-hmm.
consider mentoring others.
Yeah,
Sharing your knowledge can be just as rewarding as having a mentor
I totally agree.
because, you have valuable insights to share too.
For sure. And it can help solidify your own expertise.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the importance of confidence, a strong network, and that work-life balance sweet spot.
A lot to think about already.
There's more,
I figured.
but let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
And we'll be right back with more from this fascinating deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
All right, so we're back. And I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
This whole idea of building credibility, especially as a woman,
Right.
in a field that's dominated by men.
It's like there's this invisible hurdle they have to clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it all ties back to those, deep-seated stereotypes about what women are supposed to be good at.
Right.
Entrepreneurship, especially in certain fields, just doesn't fit that mold.
So how do you break through that perception?
Well, the script gives us a great example.
Okay, tell me more.
There's a scene where she's presenting at this conference,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not just sharing data.
Okay.
She's commanding attention, owning the stage.
Yeah.
She's positioning herself as a true thought leader.
So it's like she's saying, I belong here.
Exactly. My expertise deserves to be heard.
And what advice would you give
Yeah.
to someone listening who wants to cultivate that kind of presence?
Well, especially if they're early in their career.
Right, when they might be feeling a bit intimidated.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to action.
Action.
Yeah, like confidence comes from doing.
Okay, that makes sense.
So be a relentless learner.
Okay.
Dive deep into your industries, stay updated on trends,
Mm-hmm.
and seek out opportunities to share what you know.
Share your knowledge, yeah.
Write blog posts, contribute to forums,
Mhm.
maybe even speak at some local events.
Okay, so get yourself out there.
Exactly. Each step you take builds your expertise
Right.
and boosts that confidence.
And don't forget about mentorship.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Finding a mentor,
Yeah.
someone who's been there, done that,
Right.
can be a game changer.
I agree.
They can guide you, challenge you, offer advice.
based on their own experience.
Yeah. And don't
Yeah.
forget, mentorship goes both ways.
Oh, that's a good point.
As you gain experience, think about mentoring others. Sharing your knowledge helps them,
Right.
but it also reinforces your own expertise.
Yeah, I like that. A cycle of empowerment.
Exactly.
Okay, now, let's talk about something
Sure.
that I know resonates with so many people,
Okay.
especially women who are trying to build their own businesses, that ever-present struggle for work-life balance,
Oh, it's a constant balancing act.
isn't it?
The script's wise to point out the importance of self-care
Yeah.
and avoiding burnout.
For
There's this scene where our entrepreneur is talking with a friend, and her advice is all about prioritizing,
Okay.
delegating effectively, and
Wow.
setting those boundaries.
That sounds great in theory,
Yeah,
but for someone who's feeling that pressure to do it all,
right.
where should they start? Like, what are some concrete steps?
Well, I'd say start with your non-negotiable.
Those non-negotiables again.
Exactly. Figure out what those core values and activities are, both personal and professional,
Right.
that absolutely have to happen each week.
Got it.
Schedule those in first,
Yeah.
like appointments you can't miss.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then take a hard look at that to-do list.
Okay, here comes the ruthless part.
It is. Ask yourself,
Yeah.
can this be delegated?
Okay.
Can I streamline this process? Can I say no to this commitment?
Because it's not serving me.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to say no to things that drain your energy,
So true.
things that don't align with your goals.
So you're saying be intentional with your time and energy.
Precisely. Don't let the urgent stuff constantly override what's truly important.
Yeah, that's a good one to remember.
And, this ties into another big theme in the script,
Yeah, what's that?
the power of a supportive network.
Ah, yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Our entrepreneur finds so much solace, strength, even from connecting with other women who understand her unique struggle.
Right, it's like you're not alone in this.
Exactly. Just knowing that can be such a relief.
For sure. But for someone listening
Yeah.
who's maybe feeling isolated,
Mm-hmm.
how do you suggest they find that sense of community?
Well, first of all, there are so many online communities.
Oh, yeah. For female entrepreneurs
Yeah.
specifically.
And they're booming.
That's great.
Places where you can ask questions,
Mhm.
share advice,
Right.
just feel seen and understood. Don't underestimate local meetups either.
Okay, yeah. In-person stuff.
Look for events, workshops
Good.
geared towards women in business.
Good advice.
You might be surprised by the connections, the friendships even, that you forge.
That's true. Sometimes you just click with someone.
It's like building your own personal board of advisors, right?
Yeah, I like that.
People who can offer guidance, encouragement,
Right.
and maybe even a shoulder to cry on when things get tough.
We all need that sometimes.
Totally.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. Confidence, support systems, work-life balance.
Building credibility, that feeling of isolation.
It's a lot.
And there's still more to unpack.
Oh, I figured.
So let's take another quick break.
Sounds good.
And then we'll dive back into the rest of this insightful script.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
So we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of female entrepreneurs.
I think there are still some really valuable insights to unpack from the script.
Oh, definitely. Like we talked about building credibility earlier.
Right, overcoming those stereotypes.
And for me, this really ties into something else the script touches on,
Okay.
which is how women are often judged
Oh, yeah.
way more harshly
It's true.
when it comes to seeking funding for their businesses.
It's like they're under a microscope.
Totally. We talked about unconscious bias.
Right. But what can our listener do?
Yeah, like if they're prepping for that big investor pitch.
It all comes down to preparation.
Okay, but what kind of preparation?
Meticulous preparation.
Okay, I like that.
You've got to anticipate those biases we discussed. Come armed with data that's not just good, it's bulletproof.
Okay, yeah, you're getting ready for anything.
Exactly. Showcase your achievements, highlight your team's expertise,
Right.
and be ready to address any doubts head on.
It's like you're not just pitching an idea.
Yeah.
You're proving you deserve to be taken seriously.
Precisely. And this ties into something else that often trips people up.
What's that?
Delegation.
Ah, delegation.
So many entrepreneurs, especially women,
Yeah,
struggle with letting go of control.
it's hard.
It is, but effective delegation
Mm-hmm.
isn't just about freeing up your time.
Okay, what else?
It's about empowering your team,
Right.
leveraging their unique skills.
I see. So in the script,
Yeah.
There's this scene where she's hesitant to delegate.
Oh, I remember that.
She thinks she has to do it all herself.
To make sure it's done right.
Yeah, exactly. But then she realizes...
That's not sustainable.
No.
And it limits her team's potential.
So, what advice would you give to someone
Yeah.
who's stuck in that control trap?
First, shift your mindset.
Okay, how?
Delegation isn't about relinquishing control.
Well,
It's about leveraging the strengths of your team.
I like that.
Clearly communicate your expectations,
Right.
provide the necessary resources and support,
Mm-hmm.
and then trust them.
Trust them to do what they do best.
Exactly. This frees you up to focus on the big picture.
Right.
Plus, it fosters a culture of empowerment.
Everyone feels valued.
And they feel ownership over their work.
So it's a win-win.
Exactly. Now, this next point, it's often whispered about,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
but rarely addressed directly.
Tell me more.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
The script subtly hints at this
Right.
when she's about to give a big presentation.
Yeah, and
That self-doubt creeps in.
that feeling of, I'm not good enough.
I'm gonna be found out.
It's the worst.
It is, and so many high-achieving women,
Yeah.
especially in male-dominated fields, they can relate to this.
So what can we do about it?
I think the first step is recognizing it.
Okay,
Acknowledge those feelings. Don't try to bury them.
that's good advice.
Instead of dwelling on your flaws,
Right.
remind yourself of your accomplishments, your skills, the positive impact you're making.
Focus on the good stuff.
Exactly. Celebrate your wins, big and small.
That's a good one.
Surround yourself with a supportive network
Right, people who remind you of your worth.
because you are worthy.
Totally agree. Well, I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It has.
From facing those everyday challenges to celebrating the unique triumphs
Been insightful.
of women who are building their own businesses.
Absolutely.
And for anyone listening who's feeling inspired,
Yeah.
I hope you take away this one key message.
What's that?
You are not alone on this journey.
That's so important to remember.
It's true. There are resources, communities.
Mentors even.
So don't be afraid to reach out, ask for help.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to celebrate your wins along the way.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of female entrepreneurs.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.
Until then.